Welcome to the deep dive. We take your sources, we cut through the noise, and we really try to pull out the core of what you need to know.
That's the goal, to help you get informed quickly, maybe you find a few surprising things along the way, and, well, keep it interesting.
Exactly. And today we're digging into something a lot of people are working on, getting better at English.
Right. We've got this source material. It's basically a transcript outlining a really specific 30-day study plan.
And our mission here is to unpack that plan, not just what it says day to day, but the thinking behind it. Why is it structured this way?
Yeah, what makes this particular structure potentially effective? What are the learning principles baked into it?
It's like we're reverse engineering it, taking this plan someone shared and figuring out the wisdom inside.
Okay, so let's jump in. The absolute core idea from what this source lays out is that this whole 30-day thing, it's built around just 4 types of activities.
4 types, okay.
Yeah, 4 essential ways you need to engage with the material if you really want to learn it effectively. It's not random.
It's a deliberate sequence. So what are these 4 types?
The source calls them input days, process days, output days, and review days.
Input, process, output, review. IPO+R. Almost sounds like a formula.
Kinda, yeah. And the key thing is how the plan makes sure you're consistently doing all of them, not just focusing on one.
Right, because you probably need all 4. Like, you can't just read stuff. You also have to use it.
Exactly. You need to get the information in your head. Then you need to sort of wrestle with it, understand it deeply.
Right.
Then you absolutely have to use it yourself. And finally, you got to revisit it, make sure it sticks.
It sounds like it mirrors how our brains actually learn and remember things.
Pretty much. So let's break them down. We can use the examples the source gives from the first week. Right? The topic was food and cooking.
Okay, week 1, food and cooking. Day 1 is an input day. What does that actually involve in this plan? And what's happening in the brain?
Input days are all about exposure, getting new information in.
Seeing it, hearing it, reading it.
Yeah. Creating those first little memory traces. So for day 1, the task was simple. Find 1 new vocabulary word, 1 new expression, and 1 new idiom, all related to food.
Just 3 things. Okay, so like stocking the mental pantry. Did the source give the specific examples for day 1?
It did. The vocabulary word was savor.
Savor, okay. Meaning?
To enjoy something slowly and completely. Usually food, but could be an experience too.
Nice word. And the expression?
To have a sweet tooth.
Ah, yes. Very common. Means you love sugar, candy, cake, all that stuff.
Yep, pretty straightforward. And then the idiom.
Idioms are always tricky. The source used one with food in it.
It did. The best thing since sliced bread.
Ah, classic. But it doesn't just mean bread is great.
Exactly. The source points out it means something is amazing, awesome, a fantastic invention or idea. Could be anything, not just food.
Okay, so day 1, input. You encounter these 3 new items, get their basic meaning, done.
Information is in. But, just seeing it once, that's usually not enough, right?
Right. It'll just float away. So day 2 is a process day. What happens then?
Okay, so process days. This is where your brain starts to actively work with that new information.
Not just passively receiving it.
No, you're analyzing it, understanding it more deeply, connecting it to things you already know. This is really crucial for making those memories stronger.
Okay, so you're helping the new stuff settle in and link up with existing knowledge. How does the plan do that for day 2 with our food example?
Well, for the vocabulary word savor, the task was to find 3 synonyms.
Synonyms. Okay, like other words that mean roughly the same thing.
Exactly. The source lists relish, enjoy, appreciate. So by linking savor to words maybe you already know, like enjoy, you're building a richer understanding. It's not just one isolated word anymore.
You're creating a little network around it. Makes sense. What about the expression to have a sweet tooth?
For that one, the task was different. It was to find 1 image that represents the idea.
An image. Interesting. Why an image?
Well, expressions can be abstract. Finding a picture makes it concrete, more memorable. The source even described one. Like a kid choosing chocolate over an apple, looking happy with a cupcake.
Ah, okay. So you're processing it visually, not just with words. That definitely seems like it would help it stick.
It engages a different part of your brain, gives you another way to recall it. And then for the idiom, the best thing since sliced bread.
Let me guess. Find examples of how to use it.
You got it. Find 3 example sentences. The source had ones like, mom soup is the best thing since sliced bread. That pizza was. And Importantly, that book was the best thing since sliced bread.
Ah, so seeing it used for non-food items helps you process its actual broader meaning.
Precisely. You understand how it functions in real sentences, its range of use.
Okay, this is clicking. Day 1. Input, get the raw info. Day 2. Process, deepen understanding, make connections. What's the next logical step? Day 3.
Day 3 is an output day, and this is absolutely vital.
Output. So, using it.
Yes. Actively using the language you've taken in and processed, usually speaking or writing. The source really highlights this as the step that turns knowledge into a practical skill.
Right. It's not enough to understand it. You have to be able to produce it yourself, like actually cooking with the ingredients you bought and understood.
Perfect analogy. And the day 3 task in the source for week 1 fits this perfectly. What was it?
It says, write one sentence for each term, savor, sweet tooth, sliced bread that relates to your own daily life.
Exactly. Personal relevance. This is key. You're taking that processed knowledge and applying it to you. Look at the examples they gave.
Okay, I savor my morning coffee before starting work. That's personal.
Right. Uses savor in a real everyday context for the learner. Then for sweet tooth.
My sister has such a sweet tooth that she keeps chocolate in every drawer. Again, applying it to someone real.
Makes it concrete. And for sliced bread.
My new rice cooker is the best thing since sliced bread. Huh. Okay, definitely personal. And again, showing it's not just about food.
See, this step forces you to move beyond just recognizing the words. You have to actively retrieve them and construct your own meaningful sentence. That's powerful for memory.
It feels much more active. You're not just reciting, you're creating. That must lock it in better.
It really does. Psychologists talk about active recall and the generation effect. Producing something yourself is way more effective for learning than just passively reviewing it.
Okay, input, process, output. That feels like a really solid learning cycle. But you mentioned a fourth type, review days.
Yes, review days. The source frames these as, well, non-negotiable if you want stuff to actually move into long-term memory.
This is where you make sure you don't forget everything by next week.
Pretty much. It's about deliberately revisiting and strengthening your understanding of things you've already learned through the input, process, output stages.
This sounds like spaced repetition, maybe? That idea of reviewing things at the right intervals?
It definitely aligns with that principle. You need to consciously bring that information back to mind periodically. The source uses day 7 of week 1 as the example review day.
Okay, the end of the first week. What does a review day look like in this plan?
It seems to involve 2 things, a challenge and a reflection.
A challenge, like a test.
More like a creative application, it seems. The source suggests creating a short story using terms learned during that week.
Oh, neat. So you'd have to pull together maybe savor, sweet tooth, sliced bread, but also maybe other terms learned on day 4, 5, 6.
Exactly. The source mentions using things like appetizing and a piece of cake, presumably learned later that week, along with savor. It gave a little story structure example about mom's cooking.
That forces you to integrate everything, doesn't it? Not just recall isolated words, but use them together in context.
Yeah, it's a great example of what educators call desirable difficulty. It's a bit challenging to retrieve and weave them together, and that very effort strengthens the memory trace significantly.
Okay, that makes sense. And the reflection part.
The task was simple. Write down which terms from the week were easiest for you to remember and which were the most challenging.
Metacognition, thinking about your own thinking.
Exactly. It helps you become aware of your own learning process, what's sticking easily, and what might need a bit more targeted review later on. Very valuable.
So, review day. Consolidate, integrate, apply creatively, and reflect on your progress.
Okay, I see how all 4 types fit together now.
Input, process, output, review, IPO+R.
In this pattern, IPO, it repeats within the week. It's not just one input day, one process, one output for the whole week.
Good point. No, the source shows it repeating. So week 1 was
input, savor, sweet tooth, sliced bread.
Process, synonyms, image, sentences for day 1 stuff.
Output, personal sentences for day 1 stuff.
Okay.
Then day 4 is another input day, introducing new terms. The source mentions things like appetizing, to eat like a bird, a piece of cake.
Okay, more food terms.
Right. Then day 5 is process day for those new day 4 terms.
Making connections for appetizing, etc. Yep. And day 6 is output day for those day 4 terms.
Using them in sentences, probably?
Likely, yeah. And then day 7 is the review day, covering everything from day 1 and day 4's input.
Got it. So the pattern is basically input, process, output, then input, process, output again, and then review for the whole week's worth of learning.
That seems to be the structure. IPO, review, a consistent weekly cycle.
And this cycle, this structure, it's applied across the entire 30 days, just with different topics each week.
That's what the source outlines. Each week tackles a new theme, building your vocabulary, expressions, and idioms in that area using this IPO+R rhythm.
What were the topics for the other weeks? Did the source list them?
It did. After week 1, days 1 to 7 on food and cooking it was. Week 2, days 8-14, travel and transportation.
Okay.
Week 3, days 15-21, work and career.
Relevant?
And week 4, days 22-28, technology and social media.
Very current topics. Okay, so that gets us through 4 full weeks, 28 days. Each week follows that IPO review pattern. What about the last couple of days, 29 and 30?
The source says those final 2 days are dedicated to a big, comprehensive review.
Reviewing everything from all 4 weeks.
Seems like it. Revisiting all the material learned over the previous 28 days. A final consolidation phase.
Wow, okay. That's remarkably structured. It's not just a random list of things to study. It's a very deliberate system for how to study them.
Exactly. The real takeaway from this source isn't just the list of activities, it's the pattern. It's the insight that effective learning seems to require this cycling through different types of engagement.
Input, process, output, review. It seems like it naturally incorporates really solid learning principles without maybe even needing to know the fancy names for them.
Absolutely. The input handles the initial exposure. Process is where you get things like elaborative rehearsal, connecting new info to old. Yeah. Output forces active recall and deals with that desirable difficulty we mentioned.
And review brings in spaced repetition and helps push things into long-term memory.
It all fits together.
So, stepping back, why does understanding this specific plan structure matter for, someone listening? How does unpacking this help you with your own learning, whether it's English or really anything else?
Well, I think it provides a really practical model for how learning works. The source mentioned the speaker's own experience, right? How figuring out this kind of systematic pattern for themselves was key to their own progress.
Right. It wasn't just an academic theory they read about. It came from personal trial and error, it sounds like.
Yeah, it seems like lived experience distilled into a method, and then they structured it to help others. So understanding this IPO+R cycle isn't just about this plan. It's about understanding a fundamental rhythm for learning effectively.
It's like a template for applying learning psychology in a really down-to-earth, actionable way.
Because the core principles: get info in, work with it, use it, review it, they apply whether you're learning French vocabulary or how to code or, the history of the Roman Empire.
The method is transferable. This plan just gives a really clear example of what that method looks like day to day.
Right. It forces you to ask about your own study habits. Are you just doing input? Maybe reading a textbook or watching videos.
Or are you actually processing it, taking notes, summarizing, connecting ideas?
And crucially, are you doing output? Are you trying to explain it to someone else, write about it, solve problems using the knowledge?
And the often neglected part, are you systematically reviewing? Or just cramming and hoping?
This structure, this 30-day plan, it's basically a blueprint for making sure you hit all those bases consistently.
And there's that mention, maybe from the source's title, about 15 minutes. That makes you wonder.
Yeah, could consistent, focused effort, even if it's just a short amount of time each day.
But following a structured approach like this, IPO+R cycle,
actually be more effective than spending, say, hours just passively rereading notes.
It suggests the quality and type of engagement might matter more than just the raw hours logged.
I think that's a really powerful point. It's about working smarter, aligning your activities with how memory and learning actually function.
That deliberate cycling through input, process, output, and review seems key.
Definitely seems to be the core insight here.
So here's something to think about. Forget just language learning for a second. What if you applied this structured, step-by-step IPO+R approach to any skill you're trying to build or knowledge you're trying to gain? How might that change your progress?
A really interesting thought. It's a powerful framework.
Well, that brings us to the end of this deep dive. We hope exploring the structure behind this 30-day English plan, focusing on that input, process, output, and review cycle, has given you some valuable ideas for your own learning journey.
Thanks for tuning in.
Okay, let's dive in. Have you ever had that feeling where, you're making sense, people seem to understand you, but your communication still feels a bit, flat?
Oh, absolutely. Like it's missing something. You feel like, okay, they got the basic message, but it didn't quite land with the impact you wanted. Maybe didn't sound as engaging or even as credible as you hoped.
Exactly. That's precisely the feeling we're tackling today in this deep dive.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking at excerpts from a YouTube video. It's called The English Success Formula. 25 proven ways to stay consistent, from the channel Speak English with Defani.
Right, and even though the original context is English learning, the principle here is huge for communication generally.
Totally universal.
Right.
It addresses that core issue. You're understood, maybe, but not impressive, not memorable, lacking depth.
And the solution it offers, it's about adding specific details, but crucially, doing it the right way.
So our mission today is pretty clear. Dig into those insights from the video, understand why details are so powerful, and how using them effectively can really change the game and how you connect.
Yeah, it's not about just talking more. It's about being strategic with information.
And it goes beyond just language learning, right? This is fundamental effective communication, understanding why these details actually work.
Absolutely. It's about the psychology of how we process information and connect with speakers.
Okay, so let's start right at the beginning. When we say details in this context, what exactly are we talking about?
Well, the source defines them as specific pieces of information, things that add depth, clarity, and richness to what you're saying. The key word there is specific.
Not just filler words.
Exactly. Not just rambling. They're targeted bits, facts, descriptions, examples that make your point clearer, more, complete. The video also mentions they help you speak more fluently, which here really means more smoothly and effectively communicating your idea.
Got it. So adding precision, adding color, not just dot volume. And the video breaks down why this is so important into 3 main reasons. Let's tackle the first one. Improving listener understanding.
Yeah, this is foundational. If your listener can't easily follow or visualize what you're saying, the message just gets weaker.
Yeah.
Specific details cut through that fog, the ambiguity.
Help the listener build the same picture in their head that you have in yours.
Precisely. And the video has some great examples for this. Really clear before and afters.
Like the job description one. The basic response is often just, I work in marketing.
Right. And the video points out, okay, what does that mean? It tells you almost nothing about their actual role, their responsibilities, the industry. It's super vague.
Totally uninformative, basically.
But then contrast that with the detailed version they give. I work in digital marketing for a healthcare company where I manage social media campaigns and create content for medical professionals.
Okay. Instantly better. Digital marketing, got it. Healthcare company context. Managing social media, creating content for doctors.
Yeah.
Suddenly you have a real sense of their work.
That's the power right there. From a fuzzy label to a clear picture. Understanding.
Another one was about weekend plans. Basic. I'm going to hang out with friends.
Yeah, the classic conversation killer. Understandable, sure, but zero engagement. The video says it just leaves questions and sounds, well, boring.
Generic.
Totally. But add the details. I'm meeting my college friends at a rooftop restaurant in the city where we'll have brunch and catch up while enjoying the skyline.
Wow. Okay, now we're talking. College friends suggests history, rooftop restaurant atmosphere, brunch, catching up activity, enjoying the skyline sensory detail. You can almost imagine it.
Exactly. That specificity makes it easy to grasp, easy to relate to. It paints a picture.
And the third example for clarity was describing your hometown instead of just, my hometown is nice.
Ugh, nice. The video rightly calls that out as maybe the vaguest compliment ever. What does nice mean? Safe.
What?
Pretty. Quiet. It gives no real info.
Just a placeholder word.
Yeah. But then the detailed version. My hometown is a coastal city with beautiful beaches, a historic lighthouse from the 1800s, and amazing seafood restaurants along the boardwalk.
C. Coastal city type, beaches visual, historic lighthouses, 1800s specific landmark, history, seafood restaurants, boardwalk culture, activity.
Now you have distinct images.
Yeah.
You're not just telling the listener it's nice, you're showing them why it might be nice. They can form their own much clearer picture.
It's so true. These examples really highlight how specific details just remove that ambiguity. They guide the listener's understanding much more effectively.
Absolutely, like giving them mental coordinates. So that's the first big reason, clarity. But the video points out details do more than just clarify. They're also crucial for keeping the conversation engaging.
Right, because nobody wants to listen to a dry list of facts. Details add the spark, the interest.
Exactly. The source mentions using concise and vivid details to capture attention. They make people want to listen more, make them lean in,
Like talking about a vacation. The basic, I went to Japan last summer.
Okay. And it's a fact, but it tells you nothing about the experience. No excitement, no personal touch.
It's the data point.
But then the detailed version from the source. I spent 2 weeks exploring Japan last summer, where I learned to make sushi from a local chef, hiked Mount Fuji at sunrise, and stayed in a traditional ryokan with hot springs.
Now that sounds interesting. Learning sushi, hiking Fuji at sunrise, a traditional inn with hot springs. These are specific, memorable experiences. You're sharing the highlights, the things that made it special.
It paints such a vivid picture, way more captivating than just naming the country.
And the hobby example, instead of just, I like photography.
Yeah, which the video notes is fine, but it doesn't convey any real passion or specific interest. Photography is huge. What kind?
It's just a preference, not really expressing what excites you about it.
But compare it to the detailed version. I'm passionate about wildlife photography, especially capturing birds in flight, and I spend weekends in nature reserves with my telephoto lens waiting for the perfect morning light.
Okay, now you feel the passion. Wildlife photography specific type, birds in flight specific subject. Nature reserves, telephoto lens, morning light details about the process, the dedication.
It shows you the person in action, doing the hobby. You get a sense of the challenge, the patience, the reward. Much more engaging.
Definitely. And the last engagement example was pets. Basic. I have a dog.
Simple fact. Tells you nothing about the dog's personality or your relationship with it.
So what?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Compared to, I have a 3-year-old golden retriever who loves swimming in lakes, volunteering as a therapy dog at local hospitals, and stealing socks from the laundry basket.
Okay, those 3 specifics, swimming, therapy work, sock stealing, instantly give the dog character. You get playful, helpful, and a bit cheeky all in one.
It brings the dog to life.
Yeah.
You're not just stating ownership, you're introducing a personality. It makes the listener connect, maybe even smile.
So it's about choosing those specific, vivid details, actions, characteristics, examples that make your point or story resonate more. They make you a better storyteller, basically.
Absolutely. And that brings us really nicely to the third key reason the video emphasizes for adding details: building credibility and confidence.
Okay. So moving beyond just clarity and interest, now we're talking about how details make you seem more knowledgeable, competent.
Exactly. When you provide specific evidence, data, achievements, concrete experiences, you sound more authoritative, more trustworthy. The source explicitly says this builds trust with your listener.
Makes sense. Like in the professional experience example, basic. I work in customer service.
Which, again, is super broad. No sense of expertise, responsibility level, or impact.
Just a job category.
But the detailed version. I've managed a team of 15 customer service representatives for the past 5 years, implemented a new ticketing system that reduced response times by 40%, and maintained a 98% customer satisfaction rating.
Wow. Okay, that's different. Team size, tenure, specific initiative, quantifiable results. 40% reduction, 98% satisfaction. These aren't vague claims. They're concrete achievements.
And those specifics scream competence. As the source puts it, that kind of detail makes you sound highly hireable. It demonstrates capability.
Yeah, huge difference. What about the education example? Basic. I study business.
Same problem. Which area of business? Any special achievements, unique experiences? It's just flat.
Tells you very little.
Compared to, I earned my bachelor's in international business with a focus on Asian markets, completed a semester abroad in Singapore, and graduated with honors while leading the Student Investment Club.
Okay, lots of specifics there. Bachelor's level, international business major, Asian markets focus, Singapore semester experience, honors achievement, investment club lead leadership.
Each detail adds a layer, showing focus, dedication, specific knowledge, and initiative. It paints a much richer picture of their qualifications.
Definitely more credible. And the last one was about skills, like cooking. Basic. I know how to cook.
Which, okay, maybe you can boil water. It's a claim with zero backing. Doesn't tell me how well or what kind of cooking.
Right, no proof.
But the detail version. I've completed 3 professional cooking courses, specializing in French cuisine, worked as a sous chef in a Michelin-starred restaurant, and currently teach weekend cooking classes at our local culinary school.
Okay, now I believe you can cook. Professional courses, French specialty, Michelin star experience that's high-level proof and teaching it. That seals the deal.
These details aren't just claims, they're credentials. They provide specific evidence that builds immediate credibility and demonstrates real expertise.
It's amazing, really, how shifting from a general statement to providing those concrete, specific details completely changes the perception.
You sound competent, confident, because you have the specifics to back it up.
Exactly. It's a relatively simple technique, adding specific details, but the impact is massive. Clearer understanding, more engagement, stronger credibility. It just adds so much value to your communication.
And, the source actually circles back to this idea of value and impact later on, but in a slightly different way with a personal story.
Oh, right, the story about the high school pre-calculus teacher, Mr. Hooker. Remembered as being incredibly smart, teaching a notoriously tough subject.
Yeah, and the speaker talks about really struggling, studying hard, but just not getting it in class. And the key moment was going to Mr. Hooker during his lunch break for help.
Right. And he didn't just brush them off. He actually gave up his own lunchtime.
Yeah, he sat down with the student, went through the concepts step by step, guiding them, making them think, but helping them connect the dots, not just giving answers away.
And the result?
Yeah.
Because of that specific help, that extra effort.
Student passed the class.
Passed the class. But the real reflection comes later, right? As an adult.
Mm-hmm. Looking back, understanding how valuable a lunch break actually is to a teacher or anyone working, realizing the significance of that sacrifice, he chose to give that time.
And the video uses this to make a broader point.
Yeah, about how there are people in our lives, maybe from the past, maybe present, whose positive impact we don't fully grasp or appreciate until later, until we have more perspective, maybe.
And the takeaway offered is about acknowledging that impact, letting those people know the specific difference they made.
Which really ties back perfectly to the main theme, doesn't it?
How so?
Well, just like adding specific details makes your explanations clearer and more impactful. Articulating the specific way someone helped you the details of their action, like Mr. Hooker giving up his lunch to explain concepts, makes your appreciation so much more meaningful than just a generic thanks.
Ah, I see. It's the specificity again, acknowledging the concrete action that led to the positive outcome. It adds weight, adds sincerity.
Exactly. In explaining things and in expressing gratitude, specificity brings power and depth.
So for you listening, it's worth thinking about this power of specific details. We've seen how they boost clarity, engagement, credibility. Often it's just a small addition, a number, a place, an action, a description that makes a huge difference.
And maybe also think about that story. Who's a Mr. Hooker in your life? Someone whose specific actions made a real impact. Maybe one you appreciate even more now looking back.
Perhaps there's a chance there to use clear, detailed communication. Maybe you reach out and let them know the specific difference they made. That can be incredibly powerful.
It really highlights the conscious choices we can make with our words, both in how we share information and how we connect with the people who've shaped us.
Adding that richness makes all the difference.
It truly does.
Well, that brings us to the end of this deep dive on the power of adding details to your communication, drawing from those insights in the Speak English with Defani video excerpts.
Hopefully it's given you some concrete ideas on how to make your own communication, just a bit more vivid and effective.
Thanks for joining us for this exploration.